You wake up at 3 in the morning with your heart racing. It's not a nightmare. It's something worse. It's the feeling that everything is slipping through your fingers. Your job that seemed solid yesterday, today there are already rumors of cuts. The relationship you swore would last forever is now just another notification on your phone. The career you planned for years, obsolete before you even finish your degree. Welcome to liquid life. Welcome to a world where nothing is solid enough for you to hold on to. Zygmunt Bauman saw this before any of us. While you still believed that building a life was like stacking bricks, he already knew we were all trying to build castles with water. Liquid modernity isn't just a pretty metaphor. It's the most accurate description of the soft hell we live in. A hell where the ground never stops moving, where the rules change in the middle of the game, where you never know if you're swimming or drowning. You were taught that anxiety is your problem, that you need to meditate more, go to therapy, take the right pills. But what if I told you that your anxiety isn't a bug? What if it's a feature? A perfectly rational response to a world that refuses to stand still for even a second. Bauman understood that when everything is liquid, when nothing holds its shape, fear isn't pathology, it's lucidity. Liquid life isn't just rapid change, it's the impossibility of creating roots. It's living in an eternal airport, always between one flight and another, never arriving home. Because home, in the liquid world, is a concept that melted along with everything else. You feel this when you scroll the infinite feed looking for something, anything that makes sense. When you change jobs for the 5th time in 3 years. When your friends are just contacts in an app. If you've made it this far and felt a tightness in your chest, if something resonated uncomfortably familiar, then you need to hear the rest. Because Bauman didn't just diagnose our condition. He mapped exactly the 4 ways this liquidity is creating an entire generation of chronic anxiety sufferers. And more importantly, he showed us that this anxiety isn't your fault. It's the price we pay for living in a world that turned impermanence into a religion. Subscribe now, because this journey through Bauman's work might be the moment you finally understand why you always feel adrift. And maybe, just maybe, discover that you're not alone in this churning sea. They sold you the dream of infinite possibilities. Every motivational speaker, every LinkedIn post, every self-help book whispered the same sweet lie. In the liquid world, you can be anything. Reinvent yourself, pivot, transform, be agile. They made flexibility sound like freedom. They made instability sound like opportunity. And you bought it, didn't you? You bought the myth that constant change is evolution, that having no solid ground beneath your feet means you can fly. But here's what they didn't tell you while they were selling you this liquid dream. Freedom without structure isn't freedom at all. It's free fall. And Bauman knew this decades before your anxiety became a trending topic. In his groundbreaking work, Liquid Modernity, he exposed how we've been conditioned to celebrate our own dissolution. We've been taught to see permanence as prison, commitment as chains, stability as stagnation. The solid world of our grandparents, with its lifetime careers and 50-year marriages, wasn't perfect, but at least they knew where they stood. You're standing on quicksand and calling it a dance floor. The culture tells you that your anxiety is just growing pains, that you're simply adjusting to the exciting new normal, that if you just hustle harder, network better, optimize more, you'll finally catch up to the speed of change. But Bauman saw through this propaganda. He understood that liquid life doesn't create winners and losers. It creates the perpetually drowning and those who've learned to profit from selling life preservers that dissolve the moment they hit water. Think about how you consume relationships now. Swipe left, swipe right. Ghost. When it gets complicated, keep your options open. They told you this was liberation from the oppressive traditions of the past. But what you got instead was the paralysis of infinite choice and the terror of missing out. Every connection is temporary, every bond is conditional, every commitment comes with an escape clause. And then we wonder why loneliness is the defining emotion of our age. The myth goes deeper. They convinced you that your identity itself should be liquid. Be your authentic self, they said, while simultaneously demanding you perform different versions of yourself for every platform, every context, every audience. Your LinkedIn self, your Instagram self, your dating app self, your family dinner self, all of them real, none of them solid. Bauman called this the curse of self-creation in a world without blueprints. When everything about you can be edited, filtered, updated, deleted, then who exactly are you? The anxiety isn't just about keeping up, it's about the exhausting performance of existing in a world where even your soul has become a rough draft, always awaiting the next revision. You think you're free because you can quit your job tomorrow, because you can end your relationship with a text, because you can reinvent yourself with a new profile picture. But Bauman saw what you can't see yet. You're not free. You're trapped in the most sophisticated prison ever designed. A prison made of water. A prison where the bars are invisible because they're constantly moving, constantly shifting, never staying still long enough for you to see them clearly. The liquid cage works through perpetual motion. You can never rest, because rest equals death in the liquid world. Stop swimming and you sink. Stop updating and you become irrelevant. Stop networking and you disappear. Stop producing and you cease to exist. Bauman understood that liquid life hasn't liberated us from the iron cage of modernity that Max Weber described. It simply made the cage fluid, harder to grasp, impossible to escape because you can't even find the walls. Watch yourself tomorrow morning. You'll wake up and immediately reach for your phone, not because you want to, because you have to. You need to check if the world has shifted while you slept, if your job still exists, if your relationship survived the night, if your investments haven't evaporated, if your relevance hasn't expired. This isn't addiction. This is survival in liquid modernity. You're not scrolling, you're treading water. The prison reveals itself in your relationships. You keep people at arm's length because getting too close means risking the pain of their inevitable departure. You've learned to love with one foot out the door, to invest just enough to feel something, but never enough to be destroyed when it ends. And it will end. Everything ends in liquid life. Bauman wrote in Liquid Love about how we've replaced connections with contacts, depth with surface, intimacy with interface. You have 500 friends online and no one to call at 3 in the morning when the anxiety becomes unbearable. But the cruelest bar in this liquid prison, the illusion of choice. You're drowning in options while dying of thirst. Every decision comes with the weight of infinite alternatives. Choose a career? But what about the 17 other paths you could take? Commit to a partner? But what about the endless scroll of possibilities? Settle in a city? But what about everywhere else you could be? The liquid prison doesn't limit your choices. It multiplies them until choosing becomes impossible, until you're paralyzed by the very freedom you thought you wanted. You're performing freedom while living in captivity, dancing in quicksand, building your life on waves, and the exhaustion you feel, that bone-deep weariness that no amount of sleep can cure, that's not weakness. That's the natural response to living in a prison that demands you run at full speed just to stay in the same place. Bauman knew that the liquid cage is perfect because you can't rage against bars you can't see. You can't escape a prison that moves with you. You can't break free when freedom itself has become your chains. Zygmunt Bauman didn't just observe our liquid reality. He dissected it with surgical precision. Born in Poland in 1925, fleeing the Nazis, exiled by communists, he knew what it meant to have solid ground ripped away. Perhaps that's why he could see so clearly what we've become. In Liquid Modernity, he revealed that our entire civilization has undergone a phase transition. Like ice melting into water, all our solid institutions, relationships, and identities have liquefied. But unlike water, which can freeze again, Bauman warned that there's no going back. The solid modern world is gone forever. Here's what Bauman understood that your therapist doesn't. Your anxiety has 4 specific sources in liquid life. First, the tyranny of endless possibility. When everything is possible, nothing is certain. The weight of infinite potential futures crushes your ability to inhabit the present. Second, the commodification of human bonds. In Liquid Love, Bauman exposed how capitalism has infected our most intimate connections. You don't have relationships anymore. You have investments that you constantly evaluate for their return. Every human connection comes with an implicit cost-benefit analysis. Third, and this is where Bauman becomes prophetic, the individualization of systemic failures. When society's problems become your personal inadequacies, can't find stable work, you're not entrepreneurial enough, relationship failed, you didn't work on yourself enough, feeling anxious, you're not mindful enough. Bauman saw how liquid modernity's greatest trick is making you blame yourself for swimming in poisoned water. The system liquefies everything and then sells you swimming lessons. The fourth source is the most insidious, the speed of obsolescence. In Consuming Life, Bauman revealed how you've been transformed from a human being into a product that requires constant updates. Your skills, your knowledge, your very self becomes obsolete at an ever-accelerating pace. You're not just keeping up with change, you're racing against your own expiration date. The anxiety isn't just about falling behind, it's about becoming irrelevant while you're still breathing. But Bauman's greatest insight wasn't in diagnosing our condition. It was in revealing its purpose. Liquid life isn't an accident. It's a feature of late capitalism. Solid humans with stable identities and lasting bonds are terrible consumers. They buy what they need and stop. They form communities that resist. They develop loyalties that can't be monetized. But liquid humans, anxious, isolated, constantly seeking the next fix, the next update, the next version of themselves. We're perfect. We consume endlessly because we're trying to fill a void that can't be filled. We're trying to build solid ground in a world designed to keep us drowning. Bauman didn't offer false hope. He wasn't selling solutions. He was offering something more valuable: clarity. The recognition that your anxiety isn't personal failure. It's the logical response to living in a civilization that has declared war on permanence. Your restlessness, your fear, your constant sense of not being enough, that's not mental illness. That's mental health in an insane system. Stop right now. Stop and feel what's happening in your body as you hear these words. That tightness in your chest isn't just recognition. It's the collision between who you think you are and who the liquid world has made you become. You're not the autonomous individual you've been told you are. You're a product of liquid conditioning, and the crisis begins the moment you realize it. The moment you understand that your thoughts aren't entirely your own, that your desires have been programmed, that your anxiety isn't a malfunction, but the system working exactly as designed. You've been split in two. There's the you that performs confidence on social media while drowning in imposter syndrome. The you that preaches self-love while consuming yourself with self-optimization. The you that talks about authentic connection while treating relationships like subscription services you can cancel anytime. Bauman called this the liquid modern predicament, being forced to be an individual in a world that makes genuine individuality impossible. You're commanded to be yourself while being given no stable ground on which to discover who that self might be. Feel the weight of your own contradictions. You crave stability, but fear commitment. You want deep connections, but keep everyone at safe distances. You desire authenticity, but curate every aspect of your existence. You seek meaning, but consume distraction. These aren't character flaws. These are the survival mechanisms of liquid life. You've adapted perfectly to an imperfect world, and that adaptation is killing you slowly, one anxiety attack at a time. The real crisis hits when you realize you can't simply opt out. You can't just decide to be solid in a liquid world. Try it. Try having a relationship without exit strategies. Try committing to a career path without keeping one eye on alternatives. Try being present without documenting it. Try existing without optimizing. You'll find that the liquid world doesn't allow conscientious objectors. It demands total participation. You either flow or you drown. There is no third option. But here's what Bauman knew that breaks everything open. Recognizing the prison is the first step to psychological freedom. Not escape, because there is no escape from liquid modernity, but freedom from the illusion that this is natural, inevitable, or your fault. Your anxiety isn't a personal failing. It's evidence that some part of you remembers what it means to be human in a world that's forgotten. That restlessness you feel, it's your soul rejecting its liquid container. That longing for something solid, something real, something that lasts. That's not nostalgia. That's sanity. You are not broken. The world is. You are not failing. You're being failed. You are not weak for feeling overwhelmed by constant change. You're strong for surviving this long in conditions hostile to human flourishing. The crisis isn't that you can't keep up with liquid life. The crisis is that you've been trying to. The exhaustion you feel is your humanity refusing to be liquefied. It's the last solid part of you fighting to survive. So here you are, standing at the edge of understanding, finally seeing the liquid prison for what it is. Bauman didn't leave us with comfortable lies or easy solutions. He left us with something more powerful, the truth. And the truth is this: you will never find solid ground in liquid modernity. But you can learn to swim with intention rather than panic. You can choose your currents rather than being swept away. You can create temporary islands of meaning, even if you can't build permanent continents. The liberation begins with acceptance. Accept that your anxiety is not a personal pathology, but a rational response to irrational conditions. Accept that the exhaustion you feel from constant adaptation is not weakness, but the cost of staying human in dehumanizing circumstances. Accept that your longing for stability, connection, and meaning isn't outdated romanticism, but the compass pointing toward what actually matters. Bauman taught us that seeing clearly is the first form of resistance. Start small. Create pockets of solidity in your liquid life, not through rigid rules or nostalgic retreats to an imagined past, but through conscious choices. Choose depth over surface in at least one relationship. Choose presence over performance in at least one daily moment. Choose completion over constant updates in at least one area of your life. These aren't solutions to liquid modernity. They're acts of rebellion against it, small refusals to be completely liquefied. Find others who are drowning too. Because here's what Bauman understood: liquid modernity isolates us precisely because solidarity is the only force that can resist it. When you share this video, you're not just spreading content. You're throwing a lifeline. You're saying to someone else who wakes up at 3 in the morning with their heart racing, you're not alone in this. Your anxiety is not your fault. The world really is this unstable, and it's okay to admit that it's terrifying. The 4 ways liquid life creates anxiety that Bauman identified aren't going away. The endless possibilities will continue to overwhelm. The commodification of relationships will intensify. The individualization of systemic failures will persist. The acceleration of obsolescence will increase. But knowing this, seeing it clearly, naming it precisely, strips away its power to make you feel personally defective. You're not failing at life. You're surviving in conditions previous generations couldn't have imagined. If this burned something inside you, if it named something you felt but couldn't articulate, then you've already begun. The fire you feel isn't destruction, it's clarity burning through the fog of liquid lies. Share this video not because I'm asking you to, but because someone you know is drowning and thinks it's their fault. Follow this channel not for more content, but for more moments of recognition that you're not crazy for finding liquid life exhausting. The world has been liquefied, but your humanity remains solid at its core. That's not a bug to be fixed. That's the spark of resistance that refuses to be extinguished. Bauman is gone, but his insights remain like lighthouse beams in our liquid storm. You're not alone. You never were. And now you know why you're anxious. The question is, what will you do with this knowledge?